Catherine Just is an award-winning photographer, artist, and activist who travels the globe capturing the breath, heartbeat, and pulse of the planet with her 4x5 camera, Polaroid, Pinhole, and other film cameras. Through her artist retreats, courses, and her own artwork, she teaches and inspires others to express their internal landscape through the medium of photography. She believes that the truth lives in between the words and that creativity is a portal into the expansiveness of all that is. She's most interested in what's happening in the river beneath the river. This is so picturesque. I love it. I love it. Catherine is the founder of the Max Harrison Foundation, bringing photographers together around the world to teach kids with Down syndrome how to use cameras for self-expression. She believes it's important not only to provide opportunities for kids to celebrate themselves and their lives through creating images, but to highlight that these kids are not just a diagnosis, but are valuable beings with a unique and individual point of view, breaking down old stereotypes and creating a new paradigm, photography as medicine for the planet. Catherine, you ready to rock this? You're ready!
Fire!
Fire! Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Bring in the fire. Thank you so much for coming on today. We are grateful to have you here and share about your incredibly unique perspective on life and all the gifts that you've been igniting within people and sharing your artistic, creative superpowers, because what you do is different than most people who come on this show. So thank you so much for showing up today for us.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Awesome. So we're going to dive right into this conversation of the theme of the day, which is I am enough. So Catherine, how does the conversation of being enough, how does that show up for you? How have you worked through that? How does that come across in your work that you do with your clients? How does this conversation shape and impact your life?
That's a biggie. Oh my gosh.
Yep.
Thanks. Listening this morning to other people's answers, and it's been really fascinating just to really consider I am enough. What does that mean? Yeah. And I think for me, I mean, it doesn't say anything on my bio, and I don't really talk about it unless you're in a class of mine. But when I was younger, I didn't know my value in the world. I didn't know that I was worth being here. I didn't, I was in a situation at home I was very sensitive to. It was abusive and all the things. And I took it very personally, and I thought it meant something about me. So I turned to drugs and alcohol to sort of soothe that and to be able to just be here. It was very, very uncomfortable for me to just be in the world. So I was like vibrating this energy of not enough. It was excruciatingly painful. I was very stressed out all the time about how others perceived me, because I was perceiving me based on what I thought it meant because of what was happening around me. And I got sober when I was 18 years old from a crystal meth addiction. And through this process of showing up and learning how to be here and face the feelings that I have about enoughness, or all the things that are wrapped in that little bubble, I'm tying it with a bow. I just have come to more, just feeling more comfortable in my own skin. So the enoughness is really about just being here in it long enough for me to I am here with myself and I'm okay. And all of that stuff has nothing to do with me. So my enoughness isn't about the external anymore. And I can't say all the time. I would say that two things are at play. I feel like if my ego is running the show, which is often, then my enoughness comes from what I'm doing out in the world, accomplishments, how I think I look that day, what I'm wearing, where I live, all the things, all that stuff. And then I'm getting into a process of comparison, compare and despair, all that stuff, and not really knowing day by day if I can consistently hold on to that I am enoughness. That makes sense? Because if somebody says something, or if I don't get the gig, or if you don't ask me to be on your podcast, that must mean something, right? Wow. When really it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. unless I decide that it means something. And what I've learned through showing up and my own pursuit of leaning in and trying to figure out why I'm here is that when I can move away from the ego and the story and the beliefs, because that's where suffering is actually occurring. It's in my thought process and my attention, and I'm attached to them. I'm attached to my story, and I'm suffering because of it. When I can detach from that story, which is difficult, I have to arm wrestle myself often to let go of the need to think that's true, and my obsessive conversation in my head about it. Then what's revealed to me is that I don't have anything to prove. I am enough as I am. We kind of know that, but how do we know that we don't have anything to prove to anyone else, and we don't even have anything to prove to ourselves? That's the miracle. When you feel that connected to another story which has no words attached to it, that you're not about all this stuff out here. I have had the experience of just truly being in love with the energy of being here and how we're all connected. That to me is enough, and it doesn't have to be defined. That's my short answer.
I love it. No, that was great. That was great. I think what I heard is that this enoughness is something that you are constantly grappling with, like the ego running the show kind of thing.
Sure.
And you know it's there waiting for you, this divine presence, this just like, oh my gosh, this is the life, this is the reality that I'm present in, that I get to experience, that's so magical and blissful and incredible. And you know that that's there, and there's not really any words to it. There's not really any, explanation to the feeling of enoughness. And I know for even me, like, I almost sometimes try to prove to myself that I am enough at being enough, like, and it's like not for other people, but sometimes it's just for me, right? It's just this crazy story. So I love that, and great start to this conversation. And I knew it was going to be like this because when we talked on the phone before this, we just had such a brilliant, incredible, deep and fun conversation. So this is magical, and that's a great start. And how and what what gifts are you bringing to the world today? How are you impacting people's lives? What's the magic that you are sharing in the world today?
Thanks for asking that question, because then all of my ego is like, can I actually say the things that Yes, actually. I actually, it's funny that came up for me in my head. I teach online classes, self-portraiture as medicine as one of them, Into the Deep is another, and Begin Deepening. And I also do immersive retreats around the world so that we can dive in and explore what's living in our internal landscape and try to find a way to get it out of ourselves and into an artistic expression, more like I call it visual poetry, where we're using the tool of photography to express what we can't articulate. And it comes directly from when I was 18 years old and didn't know how to be here and could barely look you in the eyes. Like, actually, I couldn't look you in the eyes. There was like no way. And so for me to have a way to express my own, there was a lot going on when I got sober, because you take away all that stuff and now I'm left with, like, I felt like I had a layer of skin removed. And here I am, this open wound, basically. And to learn how to use that tool of photography to express myself in a way that saved my life. And so for me to be able to pass that forward and use this tool that we think, it's all about shutter speeds and the lens we have and the camera, are you Canon, are you Nikon, all that stuff. And I only have an iPhone. Like, I don't care about any of that. Like, I want to know what's going on in your life, and let's explore what's underneath the surface, and like the river beneath the river, and what's in between the words. And so I feel compelled to pass it forward, what's been given to me, that we are all valuable and that we have a unique story to share through these images, and that we can actually heal the planet in some way by allowing ourselves to express and not hide the fact that we have something to say, and not decide for the world that it's worth something or that we're important enough to say it or that we're ready I hear that all the time. I'm not quite there yet to be able to do. I'm like, there is no ready.
Wow. So is it the exploration and the discovery of how do I most in my highest good, my highest self, share my gifts? How do I, in my highest self, get my message, my soul, my calling, get that out to people? How do I connect with people? How do I connect with life, with Mother Nature? Like, what's the kind of the objective, so to speak, of that?
Actually, I think it's all of that.
Yeah.
And it really is. I think it just always goes back to that we are valuable intrinsically because we're here and we have something to say, period. So when as I get deeper and deeper into the work that I do with people and with myself, it is really about going into the portal of the unknown. And the fear and resistance we all have of going into that. We have a story that we're attached to that's causing us suffering. And if I release that, then there's this whole, if it doesn't exist, there's what? And the creative process is a perfect way to go into the portal of the unknown when we haven't designed the photograph. We're actually allowing the process to have the image talk to us and to have this actual connection with that we cannot define. So I think ultimately it is about connection to source, connection to our truth, connection to what we cannot actually say in words.
Yeah. It's beautiful. Very beautiful. Very beautiful. So why don't you take us back a little bit along the journey? Some of the challenges you mentioned, you got sober. What other kind of phases of your life did you go through to be able to not just take pictures, but take pictures in a way that captures something so much deeper and a source, a spirit, so much more profound and like kind of cosmically expansive and connected and just more, I don't want, like, it's not more important, not more significant, but it's like just real and like above, right? It's like it's above this kind of surface level that most people are living at. How did you get to raise above the monotony, so to speak, of life and kind of ascend into awareness and consciousness of like that there's this art and this creation that we can do by taking pictures?
God, I just had my life flash before my eyes. And I've been sober. I mean, I've been sober 30 years. So that's 30 years of exploring, like, what is this?
Yeah.
Why am I here? And literally, I have to say that when I got sober, I was 18. I was on my knees on my street, screaming at the top of my lungs that I wanted to die. And that there was a voice in my head that said, there's more to this life than what you're living. And literally, I have to say, I'm so grateful. Like, I don't have an urge to use or drink. I've already been down that road. I know what that does. And I still feel pain. I still have to face all the stuff that I would numb out, for. But I'm very curious about what that is. Is this it? Is it this conversation that we're having that somebody else is going to hear and that's going to help them turn away from something that's painful to something that isn't? I have no idea. Is it that I had my son Max? Is it? I don't know, but it keeps me curious about life and living and why I feel the pain I do and what's on the other side of it. So that's one thing. And the other is really the darkness, like, for real. Let's talk about, you're talking about going up here. I'm like, but actually I have to go into the deep. My classes are called Begin Deepening and Into the Deep because I have to lean into that place that's uncomfortable in order to find the treasure buried in there that I don't want to look at. And of course, it's manifesting itself in my life out here. And until I realize it, I don't want to go in there.
Right.
And really, photography has helped me throughout this journey of being here to look at it in a way that is hard, but it helps me get into that space of listening to myself on a different plane, so to speak. I'm not listening to words necessarily. I'm listening to what is really going on underneath the surface. And go ahead.
I was going to say, what are some of those things, like the darkness that you've been afraid to take on and actually go discover and grapple with and deal with and kind of face those demons, so to speak?
Well, recently, so many things. Shall we talk?
Mm-hmm.
Recently, I can say throughout the whole journey of photography being a source as medicine, if there's something going on in relationship that's causing confusion or despair or a heartache or loss or joy, and my fear of it, that's where I go. I go into that place of uncertainty around a relationship. What conversation I'm having in my head that's not being said, but I'm deeply feeling it. So if I'm in a breakup and the devastation of the hope I had about that person or where it's leading or what I thought or what does that mean about me, or does it mean anything about me? Like really going back to all of those questions that we all face all the time, but on different levels. All of that stuff. I mean, and I wanted to share with you that when I had 10 years of sobriety, I remember driving down the street feeling like AA meetings weren't really giving me food anymore. I wasn't getting nourished there. And I felt devastation around it, like serious loss around this place that I thought I found deep connection. It helped me to live. It gave me a foundation on how to, I got in the middle of that boat, and it showed me how to row.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it felt different to me. And I didn't feel like using, but I felt a deep disconnect with life. And I felt like leaving. Like if I can't use drugs and alcohol, and I don't really want to, because I know that's, in my instance, I know where it's leading me. I'm not gonna do this anymore. And I didn't have a plan, but I was starting to consider, like, what's the point? What's the point? And I'd forgotten that little voice in my head that said, there's more to this life than what I was like, I don't see it. I'm not seeing the point. And luckily in that deep darkness, a friend of mine said, hey, there's a Toltec meeting. I was living in Portland. An apprentice is coming up from Miguel Ruiz's Toltec work. You should come. And I thought, don't tell me what to do, And I was full of entitlement and like, I know everything, but I was suffering so much that she said, well, you have nothing else to do. And there's a free spot. So I went reluctantly to this meeting. This girl thought I would, I had that kind of experience of this person telling me what she thought I needed. So I was, of course, disregarding all of it and, until I hurt enough. Right? So I heard enough to like do the thing. And I showed up and this woman, Rita, lit a candle. We're all sitting in a circle. I'm like, what is this? And she starts talking about something that I can't understand, but I knew it was the truth. Like I felt it beyond the comprehension. I just knew I had found my home in a way, like the new place where I was supposed to plug in. It was the food that I needed. And I had to go into that darkness to find that. And that work that I did with Miguel Ruiz, I apprenticed with him and did dreaming work and looked at all the stories and beliefs and attachments I had that were causing me suffering. And that now is like, that's where all the work is. That's where all my art comes from. That's where everything is happening now. I'm constantly stalking what's happening up here. And if it's true and why I believe it and why I'm responding to it in this way in the world. And is it helpful? And what is it? All of that. I can't get enough. I can't. So it's happening every day. Like it doesn't have to be this big dramatic thing of like, I don't know what the purpose is here, but it has happened for me. It can be just like, I'm doing a behavior and I'm repeating a behavior that's causing me suffering. And I don't know that I feel like that.
Wow. So what is the pathway to get transformation? Like the transformation of how we see things. Like you were seeing things in a certain way. You said you do this dreaming work. You said you like had these conversations. You started becoming aware. Is there anything that you could recommend to our audience to start so that we can start getting access to the conversations that are going on and start like loosening their grip over us? What can we start doing?
Yeah, I do believe that awareness is the key to everything, because all of a sudden when you have a little break and there's a pause in between the thought and your run-on sentence with it, your you're attaching to it, then you choice, and in that choice is freedom from, right?
Right.
So for me, it really is just literally a very simple but very difficult practice of listening and just paying attention to who's talking and what you're feeding yourself. And, you know, Miguel Ruiz says, don't take anything personally. That also is about the thoughts we're telling ourselves. What if we stop taking those personally? That we're good, bad, right, wrong. We didn't make it. That person's doing that and I'm not. What if that was removed and we don't take it personally, we don't attach to it, we start to detach a little bit? Just and I think that the camera, you can bring it into taking your phone, because people say, I don't have the right camera, I don't care. Just take your phone and start to use it as a tool to becoming present in the life that you're in. And it doesn't have to be a pretty picture. I just posted a time lapse of me doing work around, like, I couldn't get out of my head. So I literally sat down and took a bunch of self-portraits just to have the experience of stopping and creating a space for myself. And I don't know that those pictures will turn into anything. Usually they get inserted in other pictures, or I write on them. Or I don't know what. I just allow that process to happen. So I start using self-portraiture because I'm in the room.
Yeah. So like that self-portraiture, how does that give us access to presence, to being able to see ourselves from new lights and stop that automatic thought process?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I work with a lot of women mostly who already have a story to tell me about how they feel about themselves and what they believe is true about how they look and what they don't like. And a lot of it, all of us have across the board. It's the same, regardless of if they're a celebrity client or a mom at home with their child. Like, there is this underlying subconscious belief system. And so when you turn that camera towards yourself, first we want to do the selfie where we're like posing and the light is right and we're wearing our favorite outfit and we're turning just right, all of that, just to sort of give ourselves the opportunity to shift that belief. But it's false, right? I think really a self-portrait doesn't even have to be you. It can be your feet. It can be the mug that you're drinking. It can be something in your home that you're looking towards. I feel like everything that we photograph is a self-portrait because it is our point of view in that moment. So a self could also be a self-portrait. It kind of takes the pain out of it in the beginning.
Yeah.
But I do feel that in the process of looking, we are giving ourselves an opportunity to hear what the thoughts are and to then recognize the suffering in it and find out where that belief came from if we wish, and then rewrite the story if we want to. I mean, there's so much possibility and potential for making a new choice. Like I talked about earlier, like once we have that moment, we can just drop it, basically. We can drop it and take another road. And that's what I found through the process for me. Creating self-portraiture isn't about necessarily looking my best in every picture, but I do have to face myself and all the things I'm thinking about myself, about my situation, and then come to terms with that and find parts of me. If I don't want to look here, there is a way to show up here anyway and give myself a break. Look for the beautiful light in the window that's happening over here. You can see it. I don't know, here. And start paying attention to how things are wrapping itself around your shoulder, or how your hand looks in a certain light, holding things. Like, really start to look. I feel like becoming present with photography, it's like it's inevitable, really.
Wow. So when we take a picture, do we journal about like the thoughts that we have about the picture? Like, what is the process to becoming aware, to noticing the thoughts? What would you recommend to become aware?
Yeah, journaling is an amazing tool, and you could use it before or after. You can set a timer, because some people just, the thought of writing makes them, but you could just set a timer for 5 minutes and free write about what's happening in your life with no have to be, grammatically correct and all that. Just the stuff, or write a list of words of how you're feeling and circle the things that feel charged to you. And from that place, you're giving yourself a lot of information about what you're attached to and what's causing suffering. And then from that, you can actually just take a photo of yourself in that moment. You are marking a moment that matters because you just uncovered what's true for you right now. And that's it. There's no like big, I'm making this epic photo of me. It's going to be 30 by 40 in the gallery. this is really about just noticing the moment that matters, paying attention to what comes up for you, and shifting your attention back to yourself rather than to the thoughts that are gripping you. Like just easing back to yourself. And then if you don't want to write beforehand, sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. I already have the, I think because I've done this work for a while, I don't have to necessarily write before I make work. But what I like to do is look at the work and see what it has to tell me afterwards. And I don't mean right away. I mean, it'll sit, like I take Polaroids because I'm into instant gratification. And I just let it sit there for a while. And it does have something to tell me. When I can get some distance away from whatever thoughts I had about that picture and really listen, it does help me to connect dots in my life. It just does. I mean, there's so much. How do you talk about this in a soundbite?
I think that's the challenge, right? Like we talked about this life essence that is beyond words.
Yeah. Yes, when you are in it, you can't. If you start to define it, at least I've been told that you are no longer in it. Yeah. So even in trying to make work, letting go of the inner dialogue about what is next, just doing, responding is, I mean, that whole thing is in of itself a universe. It's an amazing process once you decide that you'll allow yourself in there, because it is a big decision. I have to clean my entire house before I will jump in. Like I don't just make. Sometimes I stop, drop, and make a selfie. But that was when I was with my son full time, and he would go with his dad for a weekend, and I would just drop and take pictures because I needed so badly reconnect with myself.
Wow, that's incredible. So you mentioned your son a couple times. His name's Max, right? Max, awesome. Tell us a little bit more about Max and this foundation that you started in his name.
Max Harrison. Max Harrison has Down syndrome, and just so people know the backstory, a lot of people want to know if I knew ahead of time, and no, I did not know. I chose to not have the amnio, and because for me personally, and I don't judge anybody for what they do at all, I just chose not to because there was a 1% chance that it would harm my child so that I would understand or know or control a situation. And I really felt that whomever this little being was my being, my little being. And so I chose to not have that test. And there were no markers on any other kinds of tests that he had Down syndrome, so I didn't know. And so I found out about 20 minutes after he was born, and then we Googled it because we didn't know anything except for our own stereotypes of what that meant. And what I found was this whole other world that existed that had nothing to do with a stereotype or what some doctor says or a research paper, or that Max Harrison is an actual individual who's unique in the world and valuable and has something to offer the world intrinsically, like I'm saying the same thing, right? I mean, I feel like I went through all this stuff in my own understanding of my own value. Now I have this being that the culture does not see as valuable. It's like extraordinary to witness a whole world that thinks, why would we give him any opportunity? He's not smart. He's not able. He's not capable. He's retarded. And by the way, today is spread the word to end the word. And the word is the R word, retarded. We use it sort of flippantly to say, I feel retarded, or he's such a retard. But really, it is cutting down a human being who happens to have Down syndrome. And it's not thoughtful. I have, and I used to say it until I understood what I was doing. And of course, when you know better, you do better. Yep. But I have replaced that word with ridiculous. It fits in every situation. I am so ridiculous. She is being so ridiculous. It has no impact on another human, and it's easy once you start practicing and becoming aware of the thoughts and what you're speaking. But anyway, that's a whole other thing. How interesting that I'm speaking to you on
I love it. I love it because like I have eliminated that word from my vocabulary, right? Just because I'm like, why am I going to say that? That is like totally disempowering to anyone who I call that, first of all. But second of all, it's like totally doesn't do the people who have these conditions justice, because they're incredible, divine human beings who have their own set of circumstances and things that they were dealt with in life. And it doesn't make them any worse or better than us. And how do we integrate them with us? How does that work? You know, how do we be curious about what's the best way to thrive in a life that everyone's dealing with different circumstances?
Right. It's fascinating to me to be witness to also how people, at the minute that I had him, people would look at me with pity. Or they would say I had an angel baby, which is also a stereotype. Both things are not correct. Yes, all babies are angel babies. And my son also hits me in the face when he's not happy. And he's ready to express them. And if we would stop for a minute, it's like, I think, how we put everyone in a box, regardless of what it is. We've decided something based on some label, and we've decided something about ourselves based on a label that we've given ourselves. Based on something
that's how our brains work. We delete, we distort, we generalize, like NLP principles. Like we delete information that we don't need, we distort things to fit our truth, our model of the world, and we generalize to simplify and allow us to not get overwhelmed with the sheer amount of data that we process in life and all the patterns and all the stuff that our subconscious mind is processing. So I love this, and tell us more about how you evolved on the journey to really become a champion for Max and with this foundation.
Well, I'm a champion because I'm his mama, so it didn't matter if that or not. That's just how it is. I loved Max before he was born, so nothing has changed in that regard. Yeah. I just got on the boat around what is this? How do I best? What is Down syndrome? What is Max Harrison? And how does it affect him? And what can I do to give him the opportunities he needs to live his version of his best life? Not my version of his best life, but really his version of his best life. And that means I need to learn things and get out of the way and provide opportunities that just by watching him rather than reading a book about him. That really served much. I mean, I have to know things and then know my son. But the foundation is really about watching my son use the camera, and that he loves himself. This is what's interesting. All right, get this. I say self-portraiture is medicine, and everyone I know goes, no, except for Max. He's like, give me the phone, turn the thing around so I can see myself, and let's get this party started. Because have you seen me? I mean, come on. He is so in love with just expressing and being himself. There is no conversation that he's trying to undo. He's not suffering from that. And I think what a gift to witness that. He's the biggest teacher I have. And he uses this, I'll take him shopping. He has an iPad and he turns it on the camera and he's like watching his world and documenting it and making films and videos and photos of himself and photos of me. And so I recognize that I use photography as a tool for medicine, and he's using it as a tool for self-expression, and that people in the world don't think that he has a self to express. You know, they think that he's a non-entity, kind of not valuable. And what an amazing gift to witness the non-truth in that. And I want to give people with Down syndrome an opportunity, if they don't have it, to learn how to use cameras for self-expression, because why not? I mean, it's been an incredible healing tool for me. And when I talk about it with other photographers, they want in, they want to do it, they want to know where and all of that. Like all of us, I mean, just hearing that, when I say it, I get excited. Like I want to teach kids with Down syndrome how to use cameras for self-expression. Let's do this. And I want to have art shows that celebrate the work just like I would have an art show. And I want to be able to speak about like all the things I'm telling you about human beings, and that we're all valuable and we have a unique thing to share with the world. And you can see it when you look at the art on the walls, that each individual had a different way of expressing who they are or how their world looks. And I think that's a valuable lesson for all of us. And so it's twofold. It's to shift the paradigm. You know, I want there to be actual evidence in the world that these humans are valuable.
I love it. I love it. One thing that comes to mind is, how do we create like a value delivery system for people who have Down syndrome? How do we, you know, because like we're able to sell ourselves, we're able to craft offers, we're able to market, we're able to do all these things. So do you see that it's simply, you know, kind of being kind and generous, or the compassionate kind of brother and sister of these of people with Down syndrome, to give them access to the same kind of impact and financial economical structure that we use? Like, how do you see that integrating so that everyone wins?
You mean, how can a child like Max have a life that is bringing in money and some sort of system of, I'm giving you this, you're giving me that, all of that?
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm learning as I go here. I think that if I gave him an opportunity to make art and he likes it, there's an opportunity for him to sell it online. And every one of us is so different. It depends on the ability developmentally to be able to do that. And if he needs a tool or a system or a buddy to help him run something, then we won't know until we get further along on the path. But I think that really paying attention to everybody's needs and where they are at and what kind of system they need to learn. One thing I learned is that I actually learn like my son. And so I'm in school, glazing over, not understanding anything, completely bored out of my mind, and I can't still. I'm running through the classroom, and they're telling my mom that I'm behaving badly, when really I needed to do, see, be in it, feel it, do it, sing it, dance it. And my son had the opportunity of that, and luckily I found that through art. But my son was taught every week. They would bring a book in to explore the book, and all the teachers would dress in the as the characters in the book. They would make it a three-dimensional experience for the child, and they would paint, they would sing, they would dance, and they would do the things so that they could really learn through their sensory input. And I'm that way too. So really, it is about, not all kids with Down syndrome learn through sensory input. It is really about listening to what every individual needs. And my son used to wear noise-reducing headphones just to be able to manage the sensory input, and now he doesn't, because a teacher understood that it was about sudden, unexpected noise, not just about noise. So he was able to talk to my son in a way that helped him to regulate all that noise that was coming in. And he's a changed human because of it. So it really is like all that system. Like, I can make a business page because I can take a class. I feel like more of us that learn about children with Down syndrome and human beings with Down syndrome, and that we didn't know how to teach them. And you know that they look, stereotypically, their tongue is hanging out of their mouth because they don't have any strength in their muscles to be able to pull their mouth back in and close their mouth. And that's why they talk the way they talk, because it's like numb in there. It's like so many things we don't know. We think that they look stupid, when really they need a personal trainer. And there are like people that help you in speech therapy to be able to do things that we've just decided they can't do. It's really extraordinary to learn. So I think it's keeping that going.
That's awesome. And what I hear is, what we've been conditioned to kind of see school and education as a certain like paradigm, a certain way to go through it, a certain way of, you know, teachers throwing information at us. And we've also been seeing the consequences of that with our self-expression, with our ability of people to like find their life purpose, and they're not finding it. So we're developing new, more advanced methods of individual teaching and programs and courses that are being delivered. And as time goes on, there's going to be even more specialized courses and ability to deliver information, whether through video or in person or whatever it might be. And everybody is going through their own learning challenges and specific modalities that they learn best. So just like I learned some way, you learn some way, Max learned some way. There's no like, hey, you know, there's a like kind of a special new way of educating that he has to like create a new paradigm for. It's simply, how do people learn best? How do we teach them the best? And that's everyone on the entire planet.
Yeah, you know, that is a good point, because I'm meeting with someone today about like a teacher from a school to go over how to best serve this population. So it's not just me teaching the way I think they need to be taught, but really watching. And I think if I'm true to what I'm saying here, each individual in that classroom would have a buddy that understands a little bit, and it might just have to be a parent because they know the child, how that child receives information and processes things and does things so that they can actually participate, not just me at the top saying, let's make self-portraits, ready to go. I mean, it really is about leaning into each individual and listening. And there are schools really that all kids with all abilities are in one classroom, and not just Down syndrome. I'm talking all different kinds of challenges. And each person has a teacher with them, and they're all learning. One is learning with the headphones. One has Braille. One has, and they're all learning the same topic in the way that they learn. Is that extraordinary?
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah, we're living in an age where there's so many options. There's so much customization, and it's super exciting that we're moving into this era where like everything is on demand, everything is instant. There's options, there's opportunities everywhere. So I love that, and I'm curious, how has your business of empowering people with their self-expression, how has that shaped in terms of the kind of on-demand, the people wanting transformation now, people wanting results now, these women especially who want to shift their being, their life, their perspective. They want a whole new reality. They want to maximize their results. They want to let go of the BS. Like, how have you stepped into like that reality of delivering that with your business?
Well, dude, like, on my, during myself, I'm teaching right now, self-portraiture is medicine. It's a 10-week class. We're on week 4, and on Wednesdays at 10 o'clock, we do this Zoom call. So we all pile in and we're looking at each other and we're talking about what's really happening. And really, I get to witness what's going on for me as well, and where I'm not really showing up for myself and what beliefs I have about myself that I've been responding to and acting out in my life. And I feel like that's it. It's really about me being myself, because I can't be anything else.
Right.
I tried. I try to like put the masks on. It doesn't really work for very long. You know, it really is about being myself and learning how to be really okay with or not okay with what's happening, and expressing that and doing my own process and doing my own art and showing that and being real about it. I feel like that is a gift. Because when people have done that for me, I see I'm human. I'm making a connection. There's a woman who's on there somewhere, Francesca Woodman, who, when I was newly sober, I saw conceptual photography through this woman's eyes, through her work. And I was newly sober, and that woman, I didn't know what she was talking about, but I felt a connection. And I feel like she gave me a window into a world that I didn't know I could experience. So I feel like just by making my work, even if it's ugly and not the most epic thing on the planet, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's just really about showing up to myself and offering an opportunity to see that we're all here in this together. We're trying to figure it out. Yeah. And when I am practicing the tools, I am having a different experience than when I'm not. End of story. Wow. I don't know if that answered your question.
We'll say it did. I love it. Self-expression. Do the work, and then you'll show up. I think what I heard is, when you're doing the work on yourself, when you're using these techniques, then you're practicing what you're preaching, you're discovering yourself, and you show up authentically for others to show up as their authentic selves. And people are willing to pay for that because they want more authenticity. They want more self-expression. They want more love for themselves. They want better results in their life. And we have to deal with all these conversations that are blocking us from achieving that. And so you are simply being kind of the leader who is showing, hey, these are the techniques and the things that I'm using to deliver and change my own life. So let's create a conversation around it where everyone can step in and share their experiences, and we can grow together to grow, to experience that transformation.
Yeah, what he said.
Cool.
Exactly.
I love it. So, what is something, because we love going deep here, what is something deep that you have had like a profound experience with recently?
What is something deep?
A realization, an awakening, yeah.
Okay. I was using an old belief about myself based on based on what was happening inside my relationships in my past. When I looked, I was saying, see, there's evidence that I'm not that or the other. See that there it is again. See, there it is again. See, there it is again. And recently I had the awareness that, no, I was just picking the wrong guy. And then like the whole domino effect happened, where like the whole story that I had been bringing was just gone. It wasn't about me at all. Like another layer of not taking stuff personally and seeing how my belief system was keeping me in a pattern. And it's a pattern of thinking and then acting on that pattern. I feel like it just vanished. And yes, I have a knee-jerk habit of doing certain things that now I have more awareness around, but it was epic, my friend. Really like, oh, I was just picking I was literally just showing up with that very old, from before I got sober, belief about myself that my parents inadvertently or whatever, they were having their own stuff, planted seeds, and I was believing it over and over and over and over and over until I wasn't. It was extraordinary.
Wow.
Extraordinary.
Congratulations. That's awesome. And now you're freed up to attract the man of your dreams into your life.
Well, I'm freed up to actually experience myself differently. That's like the key to everything. It's not about that dude. It's really about like I'm having a new experience of my value and worth in the world because I'm here. You know, it's not about that.
Yeah, because it's like what you attract is based on who you are. So you discovered a new who you are, and that's the most important thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome. Tell us more about the river beneath the river. What does that concept mean to you, and how does it make a difference in your philosophy and approach to life?
The river beneath the river actually comes from a book, Women Who Run with Wolves. Okay. And most people know of this book. And it was 1993. I actually have the book on my bookshelf, and I wrote my name, date in there, 1993. So it was right after college. I was newy-ish, sober 5 years, maybe, I don't know that. And I was reading that book and really resonated with the metaphor she was talking about around story and myth and archetypes. And I only read 33 pages of that book. I just realized recently. I've not read that whole book, but the river beneath the river, the Abajo del Rio, really struck me because that is what turns me on. That is why I love being on the planet. That one of the many. But it is, that deep place that's always living underneath the surface, and in the Toltec work, it is the truth. It isn't describable. It isn't definable. I think it's the space in between the words. Like there's an actual space there. That I am exploring all the time when I'm not attached to my thoughts. Truth. And so I just think that we often are just living up here in our minds and doing a knee-jerk in the world, not awake kind of thing. We don't even know that we're suffering because of our thoughts. And so the river beneath the river is having that moment of like, wait a minute, I am not my thoughts. What is actually happening here? Who am I? What is this that I've created? And it's delicious in there. It is hard and painful to come to terms with the fact that you've created that based on a thought that you've been attached to. And it's extraordinary when you look and lean into that space, that's possible. The unlimited potential that lives in that space is like scary. It can be scary. And I think I mentioned that before, just that we're afraid of expansion. So we keep filling it in with obsessive thinking and drama and chaos and clutter.
What is expansion?
Woo! Do we define this? My experience, expansion is when my thoughts aren't ruling the show. They're not running the show.
No.
Or they're running the show and I know it. I mean, that's fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
But really, I really think it is when we know that we are not our thoughts. And then who is that knows? Who is it that's knowing? That to me is expansion. It's allowing yourself to rid yourself of all of that to be exactly who you are. And it's not your story. It's not even your name. It's not what happened to you when you were young. It's not anything.
So is it, Eckhart Tolle talks about the observer, right? Being the observer, the witness. Like, is that what you experience it as? Is it, we're like some part of a greater whole? Is it a soul kind of experience in this flesh bag? Like, what's your kind of philosophy around that?
Okay, I'm going to say a thing that all my friends are probably expecting me to say at some point. The simplest way I can say it is it's Neo from the Matrix. And I don't know which conversation, but I always reference it. Miguel Ruiz took us to that movie. I was doing that work when that movie came out.
Wow.
The first one.
That's awesome.
And it is a power movie. I feel like Neo, he doesn't believe until he believes. And once he believes, he is it. It's not a destination. He is acting and responding to it, to being it. He's plugged in and he knows it. That's it. That's it. I can do it quickly, and now it's maintaining it throughout my day. That is another story altogether that for me requires being a warrior of my mind. I mean, it is, it's a thing.
Yes. Yes.
It can be a thing.
Wow.
So, but I love that. I love that we have the opportunity to become ourselves, and that it is expansive. And it doesn't mean ego is like, look at me, I'm expansive. It just means I am plugged into the higher knowing.
Yes. What I hear is presence. What I hear is like in that kind of meditative state, knowing of there's something bigger at work here. Like, we're talking on this freaking interview. Oh, that's right. We're in a divine flow of life right now. Just soak it in.
Here, I feel a vibration here because I'm tuned into it. My whole body shifted. I was looking through the camera here and I just went, oh, like, it takes very little if there's a practice and process in place for you to just wake up and wake up again, and choose to wake up. People would say, like, put a power sign on yourself so that when you see it, it reminds you, are you awake? Are you paying attention? Are you here right now? Or are you doing that old sleepy thing that you do? Yeah, it's all that.
Amazing. Fun conversation. I love this, Catherine. You are a blast.
I love it so much. This
is like what life is about. When you get to these levels, I think everyone's at their own kind of level of consciousness and awareness. And as you move forward, like the conversation, staying in this conversation and appreciating and harmonizing and, like being in synchronicity with others who are in this conversation and being is just like fucking A, pardon my French. It is like access to life.
Life, yes, expansion is life. Yes, that's a good, and I think I often would say it's love expressed outward. And Miguel did say that, like, our purpose in life is to experience love outward. It's not about what we get in return. Literally, the experience of expression of love is orgasmic. And you had somebody on earlier today who was talking about that, and I wholeheartedly agree that I have had the experience of orgasmic bliss, of being here and expressing outward and not needing a thing. And that really is all that there is. I don't know what else I would need if I'm in that space. Nothing else. There is nothing else. I don't need anything. All of this stuff it's nothing. It's nothing.
No. Awesome. So, Catherine, we're beginning to wrap it up here. And what is, the new paradigm, the new reality that we are inviting our audience to step into because of their time invested here with us today? And then after you share that, you can absolutely share how people stay connected with you and what you want them to do next.
Well, I just feel like we all have an opportunity to shift our awareness and our perception of everything. And that photography really has been a tool for me to do that instantly. I mean, and I took a situation with my son where he was driving me nuts because he wouldn't go to sleep at nap time. And I was so in my head about how I needed him to go to sleep that I was missing the fact that when he did fall asleep, there was an intimacy. There was something happening here. And when I took my camera and turned it around and took a picture of that, my life changed. I have a 3-year documentation of this extraordinary experience of nap time with my son. And I was able to shift from my thoughts into my heart and into what was real and happening and present. So that's the gift really with photography on any level, wherever you're at, and whatever work you've done or not done on yourself. It just is what it is. It just is what it is.
Presence.
Expansion. Truth. Neo.
Truth. Yes. Yes.
All of the river beneath the river. It is you, all of it. It is you, and we complicate things.
Yes. So how do people stay connected with you? What do you want them to do next?
I want them to join me in Paris, honestly.
Yes. Tell us about Paris.
Well, there's only 5 spots, so I gotta say, I go around the world and I offer opportunity for an immersive time to devote yourself to yourself and to your expression, regardless of the level that you feel you're at as a photographer and an artist. It's nothing about that. It really is about showing up and having an opportunity for expansion. I call them photography retreats, but really, it's not about that.
Deep.
It is something else. And so Paris is happening in June. We do this. We discuss these things. We go off. We make our work. We come back. We discuss. We connect. We see what happens in the portal of the unknown, and it's life changing. It has been life changing for me. And there are other retreats coming up. Paris is just the one that I'm really thinking about right now. And actually, I do have classes. Nothing is actually launched right now. I'm in the middle of a class. So if people are interested in a class online, they can sign up for my mailing list. That's the best way to find out when things are opening up and where I'll be and all of the things.
All of the things.
Capturing breath on film is a project I started to mark my 30th year in recovery. It took me all over the world during long exposures of other people and capture their breath, their heartbeat, their dreams, their wishes, and their desires on that one piece of film. And I'm still doing that. If people want me to come to their planet, their side of the planet,
Wow.
I do that as well. So that's also, you can just go on my website, and honestly, I kind of live on Instagram. So I would say, go there.
And the website is catherinejust.com.
Yeah.
Cool.
catherinejust.com. And then my Instagram is just CJust, and I hang out there all the time, and that's really where updates of where everything is happens first. So IG's where's that?
I love it. I love it. Catherine, you are phenomenal. You are phenomenal, and thank you for the work that you're doing in the world, the creation, the play, the discovery, the diving in deep, the dealing with the shit. Like you're just like having fun with it all.
I love you, man. I love all the people that you're having on. I have this on in the background all day today, and it's just been juicy. It helps me to keep moving forward and listening to that voice that says there's more to this life. I'm like, oh, it's actually happening right now. Wow. So thank you so much.
Thank you, and keep up the great work. We appreciate you. And everyone, go follow Catherine CJust. That's her Instagram, like the letter C, CJust, at CJust on Instagram. And her website is catherinejust.com. And Catherine, we will see you very soon, okay?
Thanks so much.
Awesome. Have a great day.